American manufacturing is experiencing a contemporary renaissance. However, what exactly does that mean? If manufacturing is going through a massive change in the US, how do we all fit into that picture? And who are the leaders of the movement? Hello, and welcome to Assembly Audible. Today, we're speaking with a leader known as the motivational speaker of manufacturing, Andrew Crowe, the founder of the New American Manufacturing Renaissance. Andrew has worked in hands-on technical roles with years of experience as a senior CNC machinist, in leadership roles as director of sales and micro enterprise, and as an instructor of advanced manufacturing. Today, we're fortunate to be joined by Andrew to learn more about his background, work, and mission. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us on Assembly Audible.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad we can make time, and I'm ready to get it. Let's get into it.
I love that. I get pumped up on the podcast sometimes, so I have a feeling that you're going to inspire me and all of our listeners today.
Let's go.
Just what I'm picking up on. Okay, so to start with, just, I guess, tell our listeners about your background.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am from St. Louis, Missouri, from the places that people probably see on the news a lot for the wrong reasons. And that was, the environment that I grew up in. And unfortunately, a whole lot hasn't changed here in the city. But there was, in my neighborhoods that we lived in, there was not a lot of opportunity. There was definitely a lot of, crime and, violent crimes, and people didn't really have, generationally a lot of outlets, right? And, my father wasn't around for a good majority of my early life, and my mother had to do what she could do to, raise myself and my siblings. And that meant that she worked 3 jobs, and, she wasn't home a lot because of that. And even working those 3 jobs, I had to watch how, she struggled to pay one bill over the other. So we'd have like lights, but no hot water, you know what I'm saying? And, the next month we switch it up. So she did the best that she could. But I wanted to help as, her son, and just seeing her struggle, seeing a lot of the mothers on my block that were the exact same way because of absence of fathers or, whatever it may be. And the only people that I saw that weren't really struggling, working a bunch of jobs, were people that were in the streets, whether that be, gang banging or dealing drugs or whatever you do. And as a kid, I went to schools that, didn't really engage me or people that look like me. And they didn't really help foster or hone any skills. So I didn't really have like an idea of what I could be. And then also environmentally, I was worried about, surviving as a kid and worried about, other things. So if those messages did come to me, they probably went in one ear and out the other, because I was thinking about how we're going to do what we have to do today. I'm not thinking about the future, right? And because of that, I quickly got in a lot of trouble, to say the least. And by the time I was 18, I had a 3-year-old son and 2 felonies. And I just really felt stuck. And I felt like there was nowhere for me to go. There was no point in me being in this American picture. I didn't feel like I belonged in the red, white, and blue. I didn't see my importance as a, young man in America, or like how I'm contributing. And so I just kind of hit a wall. And at that point, I reached out to people in my neighborhood, and I let them know that I'm looking for a job. I didn't want to keep, gambling my life and being in and out of jail, and not being around my son, because he would end up the same way. And eventually someone gave me an opportunity to work in a machine shop, which I had never thought about how things were made because I couldn't afford them. So I just assumed they got here some kind of way. I didn't know the process. I didn't know anything about that. So I went in and I took a test, and I failed the test. And this gentleman, Donnie Ogle, gave me a shot on the saw, cutting metal overnight. So I came in third shift. I saw CNC machines. I saw the process of raw material turning into a part, going to assembly, getting put together, going to logistics, getting packaged and shipped out. And I saw the whole ecosystem, and my mind was just blown that all of these things have been happening this whole time, and I had no idea about it. So this was my first opportunity to get like benefits. This was my first opportunity to make enough money to where I didn't have to think about supplementing with like a street income and, you know, risking my life and my time. So I just dove straight in head first. And being in the field, I saw the opportunity for me to move up, and people started looking at my work and not my, you know, the labels I had earned for myself. So I wasn't, you know, teenage father, teenage felon. I wasn't those things anymore. I was more of, you know, reliable worker. He cuts good material, is going to get here on time. And in my mind, we were making non-contact bearing isolators. So this went into everything from tanks to jets to, you know, even washing machines. But I was thinking to myself that, like, you know, if I don't go to work, then America's not going to be as safe, because nobody's going to cut this metal like I do. You know what I'm saying? Nobody's going to like care about this job the way I care about it, because I feel like for the first time I am an American. Like, work that I do every day matters to America because it's going into jets and it's keeping us safe and protecting our country. So that was my way of, you know, really connecting myself to other people and this whole American picture. And I immediately started looking for mentors and people that looked like me, because this was all that I wanted to do. I wanted to be at work all the time. I wanted to be there early. I stayed late to learn more, and quickly looked around the shop, and there was nobody that looked like me. There was really not too many people even in my age bracket, no matter what they looked like. And then, you know, there were no people that, you know, came from where I came from. So it was tough to find somebody that would teach me. YouTube wasn't that big at the time.
Right.
And we didn't have, like, you know, a bunch of representation. We still don't have a ton of representation digitally, but we had even less then. So the few videos that I would find, they just weren't engaging. They weren't, you know, speaking my language. I didn't get it. So I just bought coffee and donuts. And eventually some older Polish dudes took me under their wing and, you know, told me, you know, stand in the corner and just take notes until I speak to you, type of thing. So I had the hands-on old school machinist, school of hard knocks education. And, you know, thank God they taught me the art of machining. And I started off on manual. And then from there, I wanted to get into CNCs, because I saw that as the next step. And a lady that worked in the shop, she was the only woman. She was the smartest woman on the CNCs. She could write programs right there on the machine by hand. And she could pretty much fix any problem. And, you know, we bonded because I was a one of one, she was a one of one. And in the shop, she kept getting skipped over for promotion. She kept getting skipped over for, you know, the opportunity to show what she can do and all these different things. And, you know, I guess it was a trauma bond, unfortunately, or fortunately for me, but she took me under her wing and she started teaching me G code and teaching me the different aspects of being on a CNC machine. And I got a shot to become a CNC machinist, and I moved up. And, you know, that's one of the beauties of this field is whatever you put in, you can truly get out, right? So to make a long story short, I went from there to foreman, and, you know, pretty much worked every position in the shop. And I've been in advanced manufacturing at different levels ever since.
Wow. Well, I brought coffee. You didn't tell me I needed to bring a box of tissues too.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people that come to my tours and, you know, come see my shows, that's one of the disclaimers that we're going to have to put on tour this year, is that there's going to be plenty of goosebumps and tears. All the reviews that I get, typically people say, hey, you touched me in a way that I didn't know, and, you know, there's a lot of tears. There's a lot of happy tears. There's a lot of goosebumps on tour. So
Yeah,
it just gives me validation that, I'm moving the needle a little bit.
for sure. I mean, I don't know. It's just people's stories. You never expect to be touched by, I guess, manufacturing. At least I never, before doing this job, thought to myself, oh, I'm going to hear someone's story in manufacturing and it's going to move me to tears. So,
Yes. Yeah. And
so
so in the most beautiful thing is I'm not like the anomaly. There's so many people that have been in various positions, not necessarily mine, but everybody's got, something that they've had to overcome. And a lot of people in our industry, manufacturing has been that vehicle to help them do it, right? And it's like that was one of the first things that I felt like I wanted to share with other people because this, slowly at one time, this industry was well known and it was known as a great careers. It was known as a place that you could go and have a stable foundation and stay here and move up as much as you wanted to, right? And there was a whole generation of people that knew of that opportunity and took full advantage of it, right? But most of the time, that generation, this is when it was dark, dirty, and dangerous, they would come home and they would tell their kids, hey, I'm doing this so you don't have to, right? So then we had the next two generations that looked at manufacturing as something that was dark, dirty, and dangerous. And they looked at it as the thing that was a vehicle to help that first generation get on their feet and get stable, but it's not for us anymore. Now we're the doctors and we're the lawyers and we're more of the white collar things, right? And, we got to get back to knowing that these careers are noble, these careers are here, these careers are needed and they're vital for our economy, and letting people know these stories so they know that, you're in the position that I was in 5 years ago, or you might not even be in that position yet, but you might be headed that way. Here, let me put you back on a good path called manufacturing that can help you, elevate. Like I went from a teenage father, drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? Like I was lost. I had no idea what to do. I started believing things about myself that wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? I started listening to these tropes and these stories of, you're a black man, you're gonna die by 23, like all these different things. So once you internalize some of the stuff that your environment brings to you, then you are like writing your ticket off, like you're not going to make it that far. But when you have a breath of fresh air, when you have something that you can step outside of your environment and you can see real-time results, like, I programmed this part, I put this in the machine, I made it, I put these other pieces together, now I have a functioning, something, right? And that's that instant gratification that you might have been getting in the streets, or you might have been getting a negative way, and now you're getting it in a positive way. And you can tell yourself, like, no matter what the world is saying about me, no matter what's happening outside of these doors, when I'm in here, I'm a hell of a machinist. I'm, making these things work. I'm making my family proud, right? And then you can come back home and you start walking different, you start moving different, right? And your kids see that, your neighbors see that, like everybody sees that, right? And, that's what matters. And that's part of what this new American manufacturing renaissance is all about.
Well, that's a perfect segue because I was going to ask you, what is the new American manufacturing renaissance?
Yeah, so it's a lot of things. And to boil it down, I would say it's the perfect storm of opportunity, right? So we've got a new focus on advanced manufacturing from all angles. City centers are starting to look at it and say, hey, maybe when we lost manufacturing, that's why urban decay started, because manufacturing is a job multiplier. For every one job that we have, there's 9 to 11 opened in auxiliary industries that are going to help that manufacturing, support that manufacturing job, right? Whether it's logistics, whether it's an office job, a bunch of different stuff, right? And then at the same time, we've got reshoring. Things are coming back here. Things are, being made here again. People are understanding the importance of making here. Then we've got a new generation of people that are looking for work. They're ready for work. They're able to work. And finally, we've got a new awakening to where people say, hey, we've only been going after one community for this industry. We've been doing things the same way for a long time. Now our back is against the wall and we've got to figure something else out, right? So with all of these things happening at the same time, there's a resurgence in good jobs, great careers, quality American-made pieces and parts and widgets and all of those different things made in USA mean something again. And when you're a part of the process of making it and you put yourself into making things and you remember how things are made and you understand how much time and all that stuff goes into making something, you care about it again, right? So made in America is important again because people are makers again. Americans are getting back to work and we've got the jobs for them, right? So now we're starting to say, hey, let's look into these communities that were disadvantaged, that we didn't ever go to, historically, right? So people in the city centers that need the jobs, the misrepresented, underrepresented communities, Black and brown people, the youth, they're starting to look at our field as a viable opportunity. And we're starting to look at ourselves as how can we change our company culture to receive this new, look of America, right? And the new workforce. So it's a beautiful orchestra of industry, academia, government, and most importantly, community, right?
So it seems like what you're describing is like a systematic change.
Yes, 100%. Something that we've needed for a long time and we talked about for a long time, but this is the grassroots, local this is bottom up, right? So a lot of the stuff that we were talking about was top down. It was like, okay, we'll put more money here and then we'll figure out how it gets to the people, or we'll, start the messaging up here and hope it gets to the people. And none of it was reaching the people in the communities that it needed to reach. So, with my tour, with people like Megan Zimba, Mavens of Manufacturing, getting out, getting in front of people, with people like Devin Russell, getting out, getting into the schools, and all of these local different people that are actually putting action in on a small scale level. When you add all of those things up, that's what the new American manufacturing renaissance is. So these are the teachers that say, hey, I don't have enough kids that are studying these 21st century skills. I need to go put it in front of their faces, and they're going to do the work, right? It's like, my tour where I said, I can do this work in St. Louis alone, or I can go to cities that are facing all of the same things that St. Louis is facing: youth unemployment, period, homelessness, returning citizens, right? All of these different things. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say returning citizens. I found a new word. It's justice impacted individuals, women, all of these different people, right? We're giving them an opportunity to see our careers, see themselves in our careers, and then seeing success stories and getting real pathways to say, how can I become a machinist? How can I be an HR person that's manufacturing focused? How can I become an executive or a CEO as a little Black girl in advanced manufacturing because I love engineering? I love, how things come together. How can I, as someone who's justice affected, that, has had some things on my record, how can I get in and how far can I go? And then how does that happen, right? So being more transparent, being more open to bringing different types of people in, and the people that are out here locally putting the work in, whether that's, like I said, big events where, they book me and the tour comes out and we got 500 kids, or, people like I said, Devin Russell, that's going to a classroom every Friday for 4 hours out of the month. And it might start with 5 kids, right? But that consistency means that those 5 kids next year tell the other 7 kids that are going to come, right?
Yeah.
And that turns to 12, right? So when we have these small, movements on a small scale, the larger picture is the new American manufacturing renaissance, and that's what we get.
That's inspiring, and it puts a whole different frame on why visibility is important, because sometimes I don't know, I don't want to say that people like scoff at like the content creators or the influencers, but it
No, let's
makes
talk
it,
about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk
you
about it
know,
because they do in our industry. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? And that's one of the things that keeps us back, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that you said that because as someone that I see myself as a thought leader, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the topics that I speak on, there's been nobody speaking on it, especially not the way that I've been doing it and bringing, ideas and actually actionable items that people are doing and is working, right?
Right.
But people might put the influencer tag on me and only in manufacturing, they use that in like a derogatory way. Like, oh,
Right.
these manufacturers are coming in. I mean, these influencers are coming in. But if you look at any other industry, right? If you look
Mm-hmm.
at your phone and you pick up your phone, whether you like sports, whether you like beer, whether you like mountain bikes, whether you like certain type of makeup, if you like, Rihanna has her own makeup, it does billions, right?
Exactly.
Kylie Jenner has, nothing is sold. Nothing. There's no transactions. There's no influence over groups of people anymore without influencers. And the
Yeah.
reason that became a thing is the new generation, the screen agers, even our generation, I don't want to assume, but I'm a millennial, right? And in these generations, the past 20, 30 years, we've all been sold things through influencers because
Right.
we and increasingly so don't trust companies anymore, right? Because
Right.
of all of the things that we've seen. So major brands, unless through influencers, they build up that trust for people, it just falls flat, right? And
True.
so a lot of the things that we've done in advanced manufacturing, if we go the anti-influencer route, it could be a great initiative, but it falls flat because the people don't trust just your brand, right?
Right.
They need someone to tell them that this is okay. And it has to come from somebody that they have a connection with and they trust. And that's another reason why we're falling flat in hiring. That's another reason why we're falling flat in receiving, the ROI on a lot of our content that we do create is because we're just throwing stuff out there and we have a bad rhetoric overall about influencers. But everything that you have, everything that you bought, anytime you scroll on your Facebook or scroll on your Instagram, there's somebody that has a product that is trying to get you interested in it in one way or the other, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just because someone is like, for example, in front of a camera or a speaker doesn't mean that they're not aware that it takes a team. Like
100%.
you know what I mean? Not everybody wants to be in the spotlight. And
Right.
some people like to be behind the scenes. And that doesn't mean that their role is any less valuable, And I think that people don't think influencers or content creators, thought leaders, they don't think that they're not know-it-alls. Some might be, but you know what I mean? They don't think that they're the only important aspect
at all. And I think this as well. Going back to what I said when I was saying I first got in this field and YouTube wasn't big at the time, and I looked for people, to look like me. It's even bigger now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think about workforce, or we think about, some of these other things, the less content that we have out there,
right,
the less we're gonna be seen. So we need to flood the interwebs with our content, all these apps. We should have tons of content creators, and people should not be able to not see somebody in advanced manufacturing doing something, and they should be able to see the whole gamut of the rainbow. People, from disadvantaged communities, women, even the old white dudes, they need influencers. There's people that are looking at them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for the people that are willing to step out in front, we need them to step out in front. For anybody that doesn't feel like they are that type of person, that's great, because we need you too. We need, when kids come in tours and they can't come see me, if you're passionate about your particular machine or whatever it may be, because really, when you're in this field, we're all many influencers. We're all many subject matter experts. You know what I'm saying? You walk into a shop, you walk into an assembly room, even parts of the assembly room, people have become experts at their specific positions, right?
Yeah.
When we were in the shop, it's like we got lathe guys, we got mill guys, we got multi-axis guys, and we got manual guys, right? And they were super experts in setting up and running and troubleshooting those specific things. And rarely ever did you have people that bounced around, right? So, you know, you might not be an influencer content-wise, but you are an influencer in your individual shop, in your individual plant, in your individual engineering room even, and that's valuable as well. So you don't necessarily have to step in front of a computer, in front of a camera to be important, because you're making things go. You are the industry. And when kids see my video and then they come and do a plant tour, I might be the person that excited them, but you got to be the person that makes them stay, right? So they might be local to wherever you are, and then they come in and then, hey, I saw a Crowe video and I saw that machine in it. Tell me what that machine can do, or what are you making? And then it's on you to be the other influencer there, right? I also call parents and guidance counselors. There are real influencers. So when I come out to a school, I try to get middle school kids and high school kids there, and I try to get their parents there as well. And the reason being is because guidance counselors as well, because again, they come from that generation, that gap generation of don't work this job because it's dark, dirty, and dangerous. So they still have that idea on their mind. Or they came from the generation where in high school, these shop classes and stuff like that was reserved for the bad kids or the degenerates or whatever it may be. And that's just a plan B, right? So we need to educate the parents. We need to educate the guidance counselors as we're educating these kids on our careers and what we can do in this field. So then that way, on the way home, they're having conversations, right? And the parents now are on their, I hope parents, maybe parents are on TikTok, I don't know. But if they're TikToking or they're IGing or they're whatever on their own socials, now they're seeing videos and they're sending them to their kid. Hey, look at this machine. This is one we saw in the presentation. Hey, you could be an engineer, you can make this, you can do this, you can do this. And that conversation is going back and forth. Okay,
I'm going to skip ahead to one of the questions. And it is, the question is, how can employers, actually a couple of questions. So I'll just throw it all out there and then you can dissect it in the order that you'd like. So my initial question is, how can employers improve assembly lines just in general for their workers? And then with that improvement, how can employers convey that it's not the old assembly line, like what you're saying, dirty, dark, and dangerous? And then I thought to myself just now, are assembly lines dirty, dark, and dangerous?
Great. All of those are great questions, right? And to put it all together, I think that assembly lines are maybe the first step where automation and robotics are integrated into our overall plants, right? Which will take away the idea and the concept of that dark, dirty, dangerous, number one. And number two, will help us recruit more people into the talent pipeline, right? So I think that number one, the best part about assembly lines is the repetitive work, right? These are processes that we can automate, and we can help people go from trading their body capital to using their mind, right? So this is an immediate place that we can upskill workers and have them go from, hey, I've got to bend and continue, doing this process or whatever it may be, to I have a laptop or I have a tablet, and my assembly job is actually monitoring these FANUC arms or these, robotic arms to put these parts on, right? And then that becomes, people are our best brand ambassadors, right? So when they hear, oh no, that's something that's a process I don't want to do or whatever. Oh no, that's not how I do it. I actually monitor robots that do this, right? I went to the Ford factory when I spoke in Detroit last year, and I got a special invitation to tour the Rogue factory. I think it's called Rogue or Rouge or something. And this is where, and Ford is obviously the top, famous for assembly and assembly lines. And Ford has they have another part of their main assembly factory in Detroit and it's like a specialty area that you gotta like get into like a special way, right?
Right.
And no cameras back there or anything like that, but it's highly automated, right? And the workers are enabled through data, automation, and robotics to be a bigger part of the process, right?
Yes.
And I think that when we do that, especially on the assembly level, there's a bigger transparency that comes back to the top. And having that responsibility makes people want to stay, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not just the guy that puts the tires on the machine or on the vehicle. Robots do that. I'm the robot programmer in this assembly process, right?
Sorry. And they also have an idea of what that bigger picture is. I think that there have most likely, and I've interviewed some people, for example, Allison Seward, who works for GE, talked about they started by having a map of the whole entire, what do you call that, operation? And everybody had ideas, and everybody could kind of have chills. Everybody could see how they fit into it and say, okay, well, this part here could use improvement. So everyone had a voice. And like you're saying, they felt a part of that process. And also it's fascinating when thinking about assembly lines, and I'm certainly not an expert, but how all of the pieces and parts come together, it's interesting. So like you're saying, to know that you are part of that bigger picture, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where we start to see retention, right? That's where we start to see people that get a job and then stay on the job, and then also most likely skill up on the job and fill one of your higher level positions, right? And then become a brand ambassador for you to fill the position that they moved up from, right? And eventually that's what you want. That's exactly what you want. You want people to take ownership in a process and then take ownership in a company. There's a lot of studies that show that workers that refer to the company that they work for as theirs, that they stay longer and they're more productive in their jobs because they've connected on a higher level. And that's exactly how I felt when I first got in, right? At first, I was just dropping off raw metal to these machines, right? But then I found out what we were actually making, and then I found out what they went into, and that immediately gave me a sense of being like patriotic sense, like, yo, I matter in America, right? Because what I do is a small part, but a major part in the overall process of keeping us safe. And along that food chain, I'm a piece of it. And if I don't knock down this first domino and I don't do it well, then that last domino doesn't fall, right? So once you understand the bigger picture, you can connect deeper to the work that you do. And that's what a lot of people are looking for these days as well. Like, people want to do work that they care about and that they're passionate about. And if they don't know, the bigger process or what we're doing, they can't do that, right? And that's another reason why we have to have more content out here.
It just gave me so many ideas. I'm so inspired. And I was like, wow, that just blew my mind that we're circling back to why content is important. And maybe these plants need to invest in showing people inside, opening their doors a little bit more, creating the content like you're saying. And then I also had another idea. You know how there's like family trees or whatever? It would be kind of interesting to have a tool where you could actually plot it out. Okay, so if you start here, then you can go up, show people how they can,
what's the exact pathway?
Exactly.
Make it real. They got to make it real. Yes. So the content thing, we're in an age where everything is digital, and we were forced to stay in the house for a year and a half, almost 2 years. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, people kind of got used to it, right? And we had the luxury of getting groceries online, getting products from Amazon. We didn't have to leave our houses, right? We did virtual meet right now. before the pandemic, people would say, yo, let's do a podcast. It was a big undertaking, had to be in person in a podcast studio, whatever it may be, right? Mm-hmm. But then Zoom meetings came around where you're working on Zoom every day. You're on a podcast and this is normalized, right? Mm-hmm. So this is something that we take into, account, that people have gotten used to doing these things. So not saying that we shouldn't go outside, but people are used to not having to go outside unless it's something that's meaningful or unless they really want to, right? And they don't know about our careers. They don't know what we do, and they darn sure really don't know about your plan. So the way that we're going to connect with people isn't just opening your doors and saying, come here, because they've got to have a reason, right? And they've got to trust that reason. And they've got to think that that reason is going to benefit them. So what we can do is we can open our doors digitally. And if you don't know how to start, there's enough people like myself, like yourself. There's a lot of people that are doing it that you can reach out to. You know what I'm saying? My homeboy, Tony Gunn, MTD CNC, like him and I will come to your plant and we'll do video for you so people can see it, right? And it's an easy way to drum up that interest. It's an easy way to put on your Indeed ads. It's an easy way to put on, your job wanted, job seekers wanted page, all those things. So people can say, hey, this is what my day-to-day would look like. This is the plant that I would work in. And then they can say, let's set up an interview. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
And they're already qualified. You can even do your interview like this, So so we have the opportunity again to connect in ways that we traditionally haven't. And we've got to take more advantage of it. Number one. Number two, we've got to be more consistent with our content as an industry because everyone else already is. You know what I'm saying? So I could be a kid that comes and goes to your manufacturing day event, or you come to my school and teach me about your plant and your assembly line, all these different things. Tell me how much money I'm going to make. And I could 100% be on board right then when we're talking about it. And I'm excited and all those things. But as soon as that assembly's over, on my way to the lunchroom, I have my phone out and Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, I've seen 1,000 other things plus 100 Amazon delivery videos, you know what I'm saying? And all of that just I learned and I was excited about just went out of my mind. I forgot about it, right? Because I'm inundated with a whole bunch of other content. So if we're not seeing, if we're seeing one thing and then we're not seeing anything again, then it's going to be wasted because we've got so much other that we're seeing and that the new generations are being flooded with, and we're just simply not doing enough.
So I do know that, we provide information about assembly, right, to the industry. So we do have people in leadership roles. And at one point I did hear that over 60% of our audience is involved in management in assembly plants. So what piece of advice would you pass on to them to improve their operation or in any area that you'd like to speak on?
So number one, I would say don't be scared to automate. Automation is going to take those menial tasks that people might be passing up on your job offers, because of, right? When you have that and you can say, hey, this is a new age assembly line and your body isn't going to be as taxed, that's going to bring more interest from the new working class of people, right? Once you have that opportunity, you have the new working class of people, get visual. Actually, these things can happen at the same time. Get visual. Mm-hmm. There's some things that you can't show that you make, but be creative and show the inside of your plant. Show the lights on, show, the uniforms that people are wearing, show, or if they're not wearing uniforms, show the culture of what you do if you can't show the process or the product, right? Mm-hmm. If you can show the process of the product, be excited about what you're making and what you're putting together, right? It might not be your specific brand, but people want to work for certain places. Like I might want to work for Boeing, but there's no opportunity to work at Boeing, but I can work and assemble Boeing parts that are eventually going to go into the jet. I'm still in the industry. So be excited about the things that you are assembling, be excited and vocal about what industry that might be a part of, or even multiple industries, right? So when we see the process, when we see that culture, we can see ourselves being a part of it. Um, and then, like I said, be visible, be where the people are. So that means digitally. That also means sponsoring local robotics teams. That means getting into your local high schools, your local workforce training centers. Get with the what do they call, boys and girls clubs. See what you can get a part of right now. Bring me out. You know what I'm saying? I'll be your spokesperson for the jobs that you have into the community. But we've got to start going to the community. The community is not coming to us anymore. They've got a whole lot of different options that they, didn't once have to work when they want to, how they want to.
Yeah.
A la, Uber, a la, Uber Eats, all those different, apps so you can turn on and work when you want, turn it off.
Yeah.
So they've got opportunities that we don't have. So when you understand that, then we understand that we've got to sell them on things like career mobility. Hey, you might start in assembly, but there's opportunity to get in upper management, and this is how you do it, that clear pathway that you were talking about. So once people can say, hey, I've got an opportunity there, there's room for people that look like me, there's room to grow if I want to, or I can stay in this position, but I know that I'll be able to work for a long time because my body isn't a part of the process. So I don't have to worry about being 40 and my back gives out and then I can't keep working for this company. I can work for a long time. It's also a good opportunity for our older citizens. People are working a lot longer than they used to work.
Oh,
and there
absolutely.
might be somebody that's retired, that's looking to work 4 hours a week, but it can't be labor intensive. But if they can use like a robo drill or use, a FANUC arm or do something that takes the intensive physical labor out of the equation, they come from the assembly line generation. You know what I'm saying? So they're more used to this work. They understand this work. So there's a great opportunity to have part-time senior workers. There's a great opportunity to have, the generation of people that are looking for work that isn't gonna, take a lot of their time and take a lot of their labor away. So we just got to look at our problems as opportunities and then be creative on the ways that we induce change. Yeah,
that is so cool. I'm so inspired.
Yeah. Yo, so there's never I'm never not excited about our industry because it's so vast and there's so many different pieces to the puzzle. And we've got so much. Like I said, I look at problems as areas of opportunity, right? And we've got such a beautiful time right now where we have so many areas of opportunity across every aspect of manufacturing that we can really decide what it looks like going forward. But we understand that it has to be here. We understand that this is a cornerstone of any great country, but definitely America. And we want all Americans to be involved, and we've all got to be involved to, continue to be at the top and to stay here and help our people, right? Yeah. We talk about the cities declining. We talk about, urban areas getting even worse than they were and the lack of resources and all of that stuff. But what if people had jobs that paid $25 to $30 an hour that they could go to get benefits? That becomes a tax-paying base. That becomes, more resources for our cities and more opportunity for our kids in their schools. And that's what it's about. It's about turning America back around. It's about bringing that divide back together. You know what I'm saying? Getting rid of the divide, bringing people back together through work and not like war or tragedy or anything like that. And making America, for lack of better words, making manufacturing great again. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I love that. Well, okay. So to close with, can you give our listeners an idea of just what you're currently working on and how they can get in touch with you or work with you potentially?
Absolutely. So I've got some really cool projects coming up content-wise, where we do go to different cities and we connect with workforce training centers, technical schools and colleges, and try to be the people that sew into these programs and help boost them and get more people, more butts and seats, and then show that content visually. So help getting brands out there, help getting career pathways out there, and getting people excited about what we do and showing them a way to get in.
Someone bring Andrew Crowe to Kansas City.
Let's get it. Let's do it. And then I've got the New American Manufacturing Renaissance Tour, which I do every year. We're booking fall dates right now. And again, that's about, building bridges, facilitating conversations, spending 2 days in each city, 1 day with community workforce development groups, those community colleges, getting people excited, aware, and access to what our careers are, how to get into them, and the resources to do it. And then the second day I spend with industry, with a manufacturing mixer, where we hang out over drinks and food, and I help the industry then go back and connect with the workers and the job seekers and like the workforce development boards and all of that. So we can start to not only identify talent that can come over here, but give them a good pathway to a career and a job and a career after that. So if you'd like me to come to your city, you want me to help fill the seats in your community college, your technical school, your workforce training program, I'd love to do that. If you'd like me to come to your city and you'd like me to help you fill jobs, change that community culture, reach out and connect with the community, I'm your guy.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yo, thank you for having me. And
everybody knows where to find you on LinkedIn, right?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Andrew Crowe, Crowe. And then you can also go to the-mfg.com and find all of my stuff there. And then if you want to shoot me an email, you can email me at acrowe@the-mfg.com, and I will get back to you quickly.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I am definitely going to keep up with your work, and I am super excited to see what you do in the future and what you're doing right now. It's just awesome. So thank you so much for inspiring me and all of our listeners today.
For sure. And be on the lookout for part 2, because when I like a podcast, I like to come back.
I would absolutely love that. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Assembly Audible. Subscribe and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest insights on the people, processes, and technologies for assembling parts into finished products. I'm Jennifer Pierce, multimedia editor, signing off. This has been Assembly Audible. Thanks for listening.